Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for being here Wednesday, September 17th. Right now, we're talking about Liam Coen's press conference that he had earlier today, a little bit about Trevor's as well, and just kind of the state of where things are with this football team, some different updates. First, I did want to say Ezra Cleveland was not spotted at practice during the media open availability. He is somebody who missed a little bit of time late in the game for the Jaguars this past weekend. So somebody who they said that they might kind of slow roll it with him, but they do expect or hope to have him for Sunday against the Houston Texans. Big game for them. Cleveland has been doing well for them, especially in the run game. But they do have some depth at offensive line to where, you know, they could potentially not lose a whole lot, especially if they can get like Wyatt Milam healthy, but that remains to be seen. You also have Hunter Long, who got a little bit banged up, who was not at the media open availability for practice. So those are just some updates I wanted to talk about, make sure y'all are aware of. We'll keep an eye on the injury reports for both teams this week, and the Texans do not have to share their injury report until 5 p.m. today. They're having a later practice, so the Jaguars will also not have their injury report out until 5 p.m., so we won't have an update on that from the team until 5, so that's just something to, obviously, something to note. So Brian Thomas Jr., both Liam Coen and Trevor Lawrence were asked about Brian Thomas Jr. today, and the team very clearly is taking the public stance of having Brian Thomas Jr.'s back. I think that that's what they should be doing. I think that they should be trying to support him in any way they can, trying to get the best out of him. He obviously needs to be able to focus and not play scared, quite frankly, not play with a lack of effort, not be scared of contact. That's what he needs to bring to the football field this upcoming Sunday against the Texans in a very big game for the Jaguars. Have the ability to put the Texans in an 0-3 hole and get to 2-1 themselves. So it's a huge game. But Brian Thomas Jr., from Liam Coen's standpoint, he has a lot of confidence, at least he says publicly, that Brian Thomas Jr. will be able to get back to playing the type of football that you expect from him this upcoming weekend. Trevor Lawrence also went to bat for him too, and was very complimentary and said he expects Brian Thomas Jr. to be able to get back as well. They were pressed a little bit. Lawrence was about the hit from Azeez Al-Shaair. He's not worried about that anymore. I think that this team is really trying to take the stance and focus on the task at hand instead of like trying to make this a raw bulletin board type of game and situation from the Azeez Al-Shaair hit. I think that's the right way to approach it. Do I think that there might be a little bit of talk about it as the game gets a little closer? Maybe. I mean, Liam Coen does like to motivate his guys to go out there and be the most physical team on the field, and they're gonna have a chance to do that against the Texans. So that's exciting to see. But yeah, Brian Thomas Jr., my stance on him right now is obviously he can't play the way he played last Sunday. He can't do it. I don't think he will. I've never seen him play that way before. Going back to his collegiate career, going back to last year, going even into training camp and preseason, I've never seen him play scared that way and be unwilling to take contact. So I think he'll bounce back. Do I know that? Absolutely not. Does anybody know exactly how he's going to respond to this adversity? No. No one knows. We haven't seen it. But I have seen Brian Thomas Jr. play a lot of really good football throughout his career, again, both at LSU and with the Jaguars last year. So I'm hopeful, optimistic. That's what I believe will happen, but no one knows exactly what's going to happen with Brian Thomas Jr. I just think he's too good and too talented to not get it figured out. That's my belief, my hope. And I think the Jaguars and Jaguars fans should try to support him. Now, if he comes out and plays that way again, it's a different conversation. And I hope we don't have to go down that road. Some more notes from Liam Coen's press conference. Antonio Johnson will get more work in the 3 safety looks now that the team released Darnell Savage. Surely they tried to trade him. Very, very confident that they did. Didn't have any takers. I'm not really all that surprised. You're basically, if you're, trading for him, you're basically paying him to be a starter to some extent, and I wouldn't do that. And the Jaguars, they do eat some cap by moving on from him. They've shown that they're not afraid to do that. And next year they will save $7 million, a little over $7 million in cap space by not having Darnell Savage on the team. And Liam Coen said, they just felt like it was best for both sides. This is a guy, I didn't know if he was going to make the initial 53-man roster, much less, have a role on defense, where he actually did have a role on defense the first two games. 24 snaps or 28 snaps, I think, in week 1 and 20 in the next week 2. But he ended up being in a spot where he was their third safety, and I think that they were really confident in Antonio Johnson as their third safety, and maybe Darnell Savage having an opportunity to sign somewhere else potentially and have a bigger role, I think is what's going on there with that one. I think he probably wanted a bigger role. I think he probably wasn't happy with playing 20 snaps a game. Jaguars said, all right, we'll see what we can do. Couldn't find a trade partner, released him. They're happy to move on. They wish him the best, but they're happy to get Antonio Johnson on the field, I think, in 3 safety looks. And look, Johnson's not as fast as Savage, but I think based on what I've seen in camp this year, and obviously going back to his collegiate time at Texas A&M, I think that he has the ability, really, to be an impact playmaker for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's long. He does have better range than you would expect with his type of frame. He was a guy that forced a ton of fumbles in college, and I think that he has the ability to, again, be a playmaker and be someone who can kind of affect the game positively for the Jaguars, force some turnovers, potentially also get his hands on the football as a pass defender. We've seen him pick off passes routinely, maybe not routinely, but several times throughout training camp and into practice. So it'll be fun to watch him. I'm excited for that development. I think they're excited for it too. He's in a much better situation and scheme this year than he was last year. That's very clear. He had an opportunity basically to come in and take the starting job last year, and it didn't go very well overall. But everyone on that defense that was here last year is performing better right now than they were last year. Anthony Campanile is getting a lot more out of these guys. I expect him to get more out of Antonio Johnson, who's now going to be in there during these 3 safety looks, maybe 20 to 25, maybe 30 snaps a game, depending on the game plan. But they're running with a lot of 3 safety looks. It adds more speed and playmaking to the back end of the defensive unit, and I think that's interesting. I asked Liam Coen, is Parker Washington has he earned a bigger role on this offense? And he said absolutely. And he really appreciated the way Parker Washington had a tremendous training camp, and then he didn't have a big role. It didn't go that way in week 1, and he loved the way Parker Washington responded to that and kind of accepted the challenge, accepted that it didn't go very well in terms of his production in week 1. Happy the team won, put his head down and just busted his tail all week last week to get ready. And he did have a bigger role last week, and he made a lot of plays. And if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I'm looking his way more and more. Talked about Travis Hunter a little bit, Liam Coen did, and talked about how it's basically 50-50 right now on both sides of the ball for him in terms of the work he's putting in on a day-to-day basis. He's getting an extra work on both sides of the ball on his own mentally. So that's what I want. That's really what I want to see. Bottom line, I want to see Travis Hunter playing as much as he possibly can on both sides of the ball, because I think the Jaguars are better when he's on the field on both sides of the ball. So that's where I'm at with Travis Hunter. Happy to hear that. And you saw that in the previous game. He was 50-50, 42 offensive snaps, 43 defensive snaps. And I say we get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers, pun intended. Continuing to see more Bashal Tutin and Travis Etienne on the field at the same time potentially. Liam Coen talked about the advantage that gives the Jaguars. They basically are both extremely explosive with the ball in their hands, and you can potentially hand it off to either of them. You can put them in motion. They can make plays as receivers. So he's very excited about that group, and Lee Quint Allen as well. The Jaguars running backs have just been tremendous, and so has the offensive line in the run game so far this year. I also wanted to just touch on the communication between Lawrence and Coen and that relationship. I think it's a non-story. It brought to my attention the other day that they had a whole segment on ESPN talking about Liam Coen's communication with Trevor, after the third down incompletion the other day at the end of the game, and I really think it's a non-story. Liam Coen was fired up. Trevor Lawrence is like, all right, let's get to the next play. And they did get to the next play. They dialed up a really good play. Trevor Lawrence delivered the ball perfectly to Brian Thomas Jr., who dropped it. And that's basically, the offense was unable to effectively close out the game, due in large part to Brian Thomas Jr. struggling and also De'Ami Brown dropping a easy touchdown pass in that game as well. So overall, I'm not concerned with their communication. I think that they feed off of each other very well. Liam Coen and company have been coaching Trevor Lawrence hard. He wants to take a lot of coaching. He wants more coaching than he's gotten in his career. He's getting that right now. And I think you're seeing it move in a really positive direction. That'll do it. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. We will be doing Club Jaguar over on UCF Jaguars channel tonight, so make sure to tune into that. Very excited to talk with UCF, Jaguar, Dalton, and Jason from Jaguars United as well. Obviously, Jags looking to get back in the win column against the Houston Texans and Jacksonville. Haven't done it in a very long time. Really appreciate y'all being here. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and y'all have a good one.